And which version you was working on? 17?
Sorry?
React version I'm asking. Which version of React you were using?
Yes,
React
latest
17, 6
after 16.8 we are using.
after 16.8.
Yes.
So you are aware of the hooks and all things, right?
Right. We are preferably we use a
Okay.
functional component with hooks.
Okay. So tell me a difference between a class component and a function component.
Okay, so like without the introduction of hooks, function components are different as a class component. So like there is no state associated with the function component. But after the introduction of hook, you can say function component are similar with the class components. We can achieve the lifecycle method in function component as well. For example, there is a hook named as a use effect hook. We can achieve 3 lifecycle method with the help of this only one hook. So I can say now functional components are more better than a class components. Now state are also associated with functional components.
So when you say function component is better than class component, what do you feel? What does it make it better?
Like first thing is for
I
example,
mean, what are the benefits of function component over class component?
first thing is like syntax is very easy. It's similar to the JavaScript functions. Second thing is code readability is there. For a third thing is like you can say hooks. I already give you example of use effect. Only one hook can replace the 3 lifecycle method. In class component we have to write the separate 3 methods, but in functional component we can write only one. We can achieve these functionality only with the one hook.
Okay. But if there were class component, why there is a need of doing away with the strategy of class component? I mean, why React is so keen to use function components?
Because like it's
Because in the latest version, yeah, because in the latest version they are focusing on developers to write function components only. Why is that so?
so like a class based components for a beginner it's like little difficult to understand the class based component. Like there is a concept of this constructor and this part. It's little complex for the beginner to learn the thing. But in function component, if someone knows the JavaScript, it's very easy for him to learn the React part. So that's why like now everything is replaced by the hooks. So that's why they are focusing on the functional component.
Okay. As per your learnability is one thing. Any other thing you can think of? Any other reason? Learnability is one. Okay.
Like code readability, you can say.
That that is there already. Class. If someone is
code reducibility is also there is a code reduce in function class component. We have to like declare the constructor, all the things we have to declare, but in the function component we just declare a hook and we can manage the state. So code reducibility is also there in functional component.
But the main reason you didn't tell, still away from the main reason. So what happens is when we create class components and we compile those classes, those internally get converted into function components.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So by doing with function component, we are moving away with that step.
So we are skipping this step in functional component.
Right. Okay. And it does make the React algorithm much faster because there is no conversion steps involved.
Okay. I understand. Thanks for clearing.
This is the main reason why they are asking us to write function components instead of class components, and they are moving away with the class component structure.
Okay.
Okay. Can you tell me what is hooks and give me some example of hooks?
For example, for state management, there is a hook name as a use state. For lifecycle method, you can say there is a hook of use effect, and there are more hooks like use memo, use callback. These are the hooks.
Okay, what is difference between use memo and use callback? What are their purpose?
basically both the function gives us the memorized thing. For example, the main difference between the use memo and use callback is like use memo gives us a memorized value, but use callback gives us a memorized function. That's the main difference between use memo and use callback.
So when you say memorize value and memorize function, what do you understand by these two terms?
For example, if we have a function, right, and we are returning this function is calculating the sum of an array and return the sum. So we can put this method into a use memo, and we can get that return value into from the memorized value, right? But if we want any rendering function to render only to prevent the re-rendering of a function, we can use callback there. Use callback.
So whenever you use effect, have you ever come into a situation where your component went into an infinite loop?
I think there is a one scenario when there is an infinite loop. If we are updating the state in use effect, then it will go to the infinite loop.
And what strategy did you follow to prevent it?
Like we have to, we should not we should not use a set state method inside the use effect method.
Okay. So can I state in my component?
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me, Sahil?
Yes, I can hear you.
Actually, it is showing that there is a network issue from your end.
Yes, little bit issue from.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I was asking, apart from use state, is there any other way I can manage state in my component?
Apart from the use state?
Right.
Yes, there is a I don't use that much, but I know there is a hook named as a use reducer hook that is also used to used to manage the state of our application. Use reducer.
So, okay, use reducer.
Right.
So you worked on Redux also?
No, actually we use a context API for global state management. But yes, I know the concept of Redux part. I know.
Okay, what is context API?
Context API is for example, we are in our application. If I say we make our one component as a provider. For example, we are using 10 to 15 API calls in our application, and we can store all the API call into one component, and we can make that component as a provider and hold the application as a consumer. So we can get the states from that component, that provider, to a whole of our application, whether it is a parent component or child component, whether it is a sibling. So we can get that state from the provider itself. That's the main advantage of context API.
Okay, what do you understand by high order component?
Basically, higher order components are take a component as an input, and we can modify that component, and we can return a new component itself. Basically, it takes a component as a parameter and returns a component as a output.
So what is the benefit of it?
The main benefit is reusability of code, component reusability. For example, if we have 4 buttons, we want to use the 4 buttons, and if we can pass one button, and we can modify that button. For example, we want that 4 button with a different color, so we can pass one button as a parameter, we can modify that button, and we can return the desired colored button with the help of higher order components.
But can't we do it directly? Why do I need a higher order component for that? I can just set a prop in the button to show the different colors, and use the button component directly instead with the different property. So what is the benefit of high order component here?
I think it's just like an advanced technique of component reusability logic.
When you say component reusability, I mean, when I created a component, let's say I have a button component, I can reuse it anywhere. Okay. Because component itself is a reusable unit.
right? But
So
we
how
can't
does,
we
what
can't
problem high order component resolve?
so we
You need
have
to understand the problem.
right, I understand. For example, we have to pass the styles to previous technique. We have to send the styles to that component and uh, to change that color. But here we can do on the on like definition basis. We can do.
Mhm. Okay. Uh, can I return undefined from my render function?
Uh,
I can return JSX. I can return string. Can I return undefined?
I don't think it will be allowed,
Why?
because
Why?
render function returns GSX. For example, we need to uh, pass something like a HTML part. Like there should be
Mhm.
one div, at least one div should be there. You can say React fragment or something like that. There should be a one div.
Hmm. Okay. Or can I return null from it?
Null is a object. No, I think it needs some one div at least to return.
Okay. Can you explain me what is the concept of shadow DOM?
Shallow DOM.
Shadow.
No, actually, I don't know.
Mhm. Okay. What is lazy import or dynamic import? Have you used these terms in React?
I use lazy loading in our application to prevent the for
Mm-hmm.
example, sometimes our application takes time to reload to load the application to all the components. So we can set the lazy loading method to show any loader in our application, so that user can know that it is taking time to loading the application. Like it, so we use lazy loading in our application.
What are stateless component?
So basically, there are, I think, stateless component. You mean uncontrolled components? We can say. Basically, these components are managed by a DOM itself, not managed by a React. For example, if we have an input field, any no state is associated with that, so we can call this method as call this component as a stateless component. If we want to get the value of that
Mm-hmm.
stateless component, we need we can get the value of stateless component with the help of ref. Use ref, so we can get in apart from this, state is not associated with that, so it is managed by DOM itself, not managed by React.
Okay. What are prop types and what is the use of prop types?
So basically, sometimes if we are passing the props, we need to declare the prop types, whether it is int or string, so that
Mhm.
it can check from child component that right prop is coming or not. That's like a thing.
Okay. Mhm. What are error boundaries?
Error boundaries like to it behaves like you can say it's advanced technique, like a React technique to handle the errors, like try catch thing. It's an alternative of try catch, you can say. For example, there is sometimes it happens when we are loading an application, a white screen is coming apart from the error. Like white screen is coming, we don't know what happens to our application. It's not showing the error. But if we are using the error boundary, it will show us the error, that what error is showing in our application apart from the white screen. So that's like a good practice to use error boundary, but it's not a mandatory, but it's a good practice.
Okay. Have you ever worked in, you know that React allows you to write components on server side. So have you ever worked on server side rendering feature?
Hello, sorry, your voice is breaking. Can you repeat?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I'm asking, have you ever worked on server side rendering feature of React?
I think virtual DOM is also the concept of server side rendering, right?
No, no, no. Virtual DOM is a different concept. Server side rendering means your component will be rendered on the server itself, and from the request it will return you the generated HTML. So
Basically, I use
if you know that you send a
client.
request to the server,
No, we use client side rendering, I think.
okay, uh, because there are certain scenarios where we need to render some logic on the server.
Right, right.
So React allows you to do the same. Okay,
I will go through this
it
concept.
renders on the server side also. It renders on the client side also.
Right, right. I
Uh-huh.
will definitely go through this concept and try to implement in our application.
Okay. Okay, let's move on to some JavaScript questions.
Okay.
Uh, can you tell me the concept of closures? What is closures?
Closures, you can say, for example, if we have a function, okay, and there is a function inside that function also, okay. So we are declaring a variable in a parent component like function, and then we are declaring a variable, then again function, then this variable, this function have access to the parent, like its lexical scope. So this is the concept of closures, like inside functions have access to its
What is
lexical scope.
what is lexical scope?
Like lexical scope, you can say hierarchical scope, you can say access to its parent function.
Hmm. Isn't it the function scope you're talking about? I mean, how the function scope is different from lexical scope?
Like lexical scope is like a hierarchical scope. For example, first it will check the its parent function. If it doesn't get the value, then it will check its parent to parent scope. So this is like a hierarchical scope, you can say, parent to parent to parent, this type of thing. Basically, closures main advantage is data hiding. That's the
Mhm.
concept of
What
closure.
are what do you understand by IFE? IIFE?
IIAP.
IIFE. IFE.
No, I not. I don't hear about it.
But I'm sure that if you are working in JavaScript, you have used this feature n number of times.
Maybe I don't know the definition. Can you like a little bit explain me so that I can remember?
Immediately invoke function expression.
Dude, maybe I use
So
mhm.
these are functions which are when declared and then called immediately. You cannot call them later at any point of time. So whatever the logic written inside these function expressions, it will execute immediately just after writing it.
Okay, okay.
And I'm sure that you might have used this feature n number of times.
Yes.
Okay. What do you understand? What do you understand by currying function?
Which function?
currying, currying.
Function currying. Okay. For example, if there are the nested functions and we can call that functions, we can directly call the function. For example, function one output and then second output and third output. We can use this concept.
Is it nested or chaining?
Chain function, you can say.
When you say nested, it comes as definition of closure.
Right.
But when you say
That is
chaining,
closer. Okay. And it's currying.
right? Okay. What are arrow function and how it is different from the regular function?
Like the arrow functions are different in syntax part. First of all, if there is a one line function, we don't need to pass the return statement to our function. Like this is the advantage of arrow function. Apart from this, it binds the data to its like a global context.
But I mean, when you say one line function, I don't agree with it, because I can provide a body to it and I can write n number of statements inside it.
No. For example, if there is only one statement, in common function we need to enter the return statement itself. Otherwise, it will not return anything. But with the help of arrow function, we don't need to pass the return statement.
Okay, go on.
Apart from this, with the help of arrow function, auto binding is there. In normal function, it's not there.
What do you mean by auto binding?
For example, it binds the object to its global context.
Mm-hmm.
In normal function, we have to pass the like this dot bind these things.
Mm-hmm. So you mean to say global context? Okay. So if I refer to this keyword, it will refer to the global context, you mean to say?
Right.
But can you access this keyword in arrow function?
In arrow function?
Right. Can you access it?
I'm not sure. I don't use this keyword in arrow function.
Okay. Any other difference? Binding is one. Okay.
Binding and syntax difference. I think that's the main difference.
Okay. What is spread operator?
Spread operator is like, for example, if we have a array of elements like 1, 2, 3, 4, and we want to add another element, for example 5, so we can simply add it. For example, a equals to square bracket triple dot a comma 5, so it will add the 5 to its a. So basically spread operator does convert the array into values only.
But when you say you want to add values to an array, you are making a new array every time, right?
Right.
So isn't it this? I mean, this definition is not memory optimized, right? It will waste a lot of memory inside your program.
Right. Basically, spread operator we use for this purpose. In in React part, we can't directly update the state array. If a state is of array, then we need to use like spread operator for this, because it creates a new copy.
Okay. Okay, let me ask you some questions. Can you share your screen?
Yes, sure. Let me share.